One of the curses of living with the effects of abuse and neglect in your childhood is that when people treat you badly, it can put you in a fog of confusion where you don't know, like, did you cause them to treat you badly and you should just be quiet? Or are they being totally unfair and you should let them have it? And if you tend to get dysregulated, which is pretty normal for people with childhood PTSD, you've probably had the experience of just kind of flipping out on people when they cross that line with you. They treat you bad and just boom, your rage comes out. And the confusion will then be there again, later with remorse. Like, should I have not freaked out on them? Was it, now am I the bad guy? Or should I have fought harder? When you feel like somehow you handled everything wrong, how do you know what the right way to handle it is? My letter today, I really felt for this woman. I'll call her Chelsea. And she writes, I'm writing to you to ask your opinion on something, Anna. In the time in which I was very slowly waking up and then healing and recovering from CPTSD, although mostly before I saw what was going on, I behaved badly in a few situations. Here in the South, we would say, I showed my ass. The situations in question were times where someone else was acting really unfair or cruel or nasty to me, and instead of walking away, I just kind of let loose all my emotions back onto them. I've been there. All right, I'm going to circle some things. I'll read all the way through so we can kind of hear the whole story, and then we'll go back and I'll talk about some of the things I circled and see if I can help you, Chelsea. Okay. One example, she says, is when I joined a neighborhood group online. Neighborhood groups online. I know how this goes. When I got there, I saw a long discussion thread of a few of my neighbors talking badly about me. Neighbors, okay. And it was based on some assumptions that weren't true. A friend of mine had let his dogs out off the leash when I wasn't home, which I had told him specifically not to do, and the dog chased the neighbor's cat and was generally a menace. I had animal control called to my house to investigate my own dog, lots of calls, and legal liability because it was my house. I ended my friendship with that person and told them they could not come over or bring their dogs anymore. The basic online version of the story was that I knew all about it, condoned it, and didn't care what happened to my neighbors. So they were raking me over the coals. Oh yeah, okay. Rather than just unsubscribing from the group, closing my computer and walking away, I called the neighbors out in the comment thread. Of course, this never ever helps the situation, and in my rant, I mentioned that one of these neighbors months before had been really rude and snubbed me when I waved hello to her at a grocery store. This is heating up. It's heating up here. And it cleared up the mystery as well as to why various people in the neighborhood wouldn't smile or wave or say hello back to me when I saw them while out for a walk. So after I made the post, she saw me in the store and she made a big sarcastic show of saying, hello. What I saw in the group was hurtful and unfair, but my retaliation was harsh and unnecessary. There you go. I don't remember the exact contents of what I said, but it's very possible or likely that I made assumptions that exaggerated their intentions to hurt me, similar to what they had done to me. Ooh, you have insight, girl. Okay. They were probably just rightfully angry about the dogs being loose and endangering other pets, which makes sense. Pulling me apart on a public forum probably wasn't the best thing they could have done, but then that's where I blew up at them as well. All right. Of course, since then, my neighbors won't talk to me or look at me. Not that they really did before either. The dog incident was what they were complaining about online, but they had been snubbing me before that for reasons I don't fully understand. They were friendly with my ex-husband who smeared me after I left our abusive marriage, so that could have something to do with it. I'm torn about whether I should make any kind of apology. I often feel like I should just try to let it go and keep doing the daily practice. That's the techniques I teach. Yay for you doing that. And you say doing it because the feeling of having to do something does lessen as you continue with the practice, which makes you think that it might be part of some of the compulsive nature of CPTSD flashbacks. Oh, the yelling? Yeah, right. Okay. And I chalk it up to the lessons learned and whether I should make one simple and direct apology, as I do feel I shouldn't have posted what I posted. But then again, neither should they. I get very mixed up in general when I have wronged someone who also wronged me, who I think may be an unsafe person. When before my recovery, I wouldn't have defended myself against this kind of treatment, but would have just cried and fawned and begged them to explain why I was bad and forgive me. I'm not sure how good a judge I am of exactly how the fault lay in these types of situations, since I was super triggered when the events happened. For example, was the discussion about me in the online group really as negative as I remember? I don't even know. It doesn't feel right to just do nothing. If someone had acted crazy at me, I would appreciate an acknowledgement and an apology, as long as it was simple and not in my face, demanding a response or anything. Then again, I've never gone after a neighbor and torn them apart in front of many others while they weren't there to defend themselves. What do you think about making amends to people who treated us badly as well? Does it make me just as bad as them if I don't acknowledge or apologize? Is it keeping myself safe to not approach them, or is it cowardly? If I apologize and they just take it as another springboard to torch me with more accusations and insults, then does that make me foolish for trying? Every time I think I've made up my mind, a week goes by and then I'm right back at the beginning of the question again. Would love to hear your thoughts, Chelsea. Okay, I can help you with this. I actually have specific experience with horrible neighbors making up stuff. And it's been shocking. And I went through the cycles you did of like, can I fawn? Can I bargain with them? Can I try to understand where their pain is coming from? But it turned out they were just being nasty. And it was mostly, I hate to say it, but women, like mean girls, who get together and do that. And I guess there's been a few instances in my life where that's happened. And when I look back at it and think about, in retrospect, how I could have handled it, that's how I'm going to tell you to do it. And I'm going to say, yes, you can apologize. It's an option for you. And I'll tell you why and I'll tell you how. But let's go through this letter. This is so juicy, Chelsea. It's just, it's such a drama, right? So I love that phrase, I showed my ass. Yeah, so you blew up at people for mistreating you. I don't blame you. People talking smack about you online is pretty bad behavior. So this thing happened with the dog. It wasn't actually your fault. They blamed you. You didn't have a chance to explain yourself. You don't know why people are not talking to you. I think this thing that you split up in an abusive relationship and your husband smeared you and women can't handle it, I think it's significant. And I can only speculate, but I will tell you that when I became divorced, my relationships with the women who I had normally hung around with, and specifically in my neighborhood, became strained. And I don't know what that's about. I don't know what it's about. I sometimes wondered, it's like, what, do you think I'm a threat? Or does it scare them to see somebody else going through what they fear most of being on their own and not being able to manage? I don't know, but it happened to me. And it hurt so bad because, like, when you go through a divorce, you kind of need more social support, not less. So there was this shaming. And I'll just tell you, like, it reached a crescendo where there was this gossip that went around where people, I had inquired about adopting a cat long after I left that neighborhood. And there were like mutual friends, and somebody from the neighborhood told them that I killed cats, that I had killed 4 cats, in fact, and you shouldn't let me have a kitten. And it's just totally not true. And I think it just has to do with this weird attitude of judgment and negativity. I had a little kitten up there. I still have her. She's actually sleeping at my feet right now. She's 11 years old. I had a kitten in that neighborhood, and somebody just got really codependent, and they're like, I think you're not taking care of that cat. And I was totally taking care of the cat. I had had a cat for 15 years before that died of a natural causes cat disease. And so I don't know where they got this idea. It was just like a game of telephone gossip that just went viral, and soon all these people were giving me weird and dirty looks, and it wasn't true, and it wasn't worth defending myself. It's like, can you imagine if I just was going to call everybody up and go, excuse me, I just want to tell you, I had a cat, it died of old age, and then I got a kitten, and I still have that kitten, and I didn't kill any cats. It just would be so dumb to even try to fight it. Honestly, what I did, I eventually moved out of that neighborhood, and with gusto. I was so glad to be out of there, and my life got totally better simply by moving away. There was something toxic in that whole scene. There was a lot of drinking, a lot of gossipy stuff. I don't know. It just wasn't good. So when you talk about this neighborhood, I can't help but go, oh gosh, it sounds like my old neighborhood. And it sounds like some sort of Real Housewives show or something where these people have nothing better to do than get online and gossip like everybody knows. Can I just tell you, don't gossip about people. Don't try to slander anybody's reputation, ever. Just don't do it. And you know that. So all of this is just to say, I totally understand the pain, the confusion. How do you fight something like this without just making everything worse? I'll tell you how to do it. I know what to do, and you can follow my advice if you want. You didn't walk away, you yelled at them, you got into a rant online. I don't know, Chelsea, sometimes I think people have it coming, but yes, it ends up kind of harming you. And it's, what the biggest thing is, you don't have peace about it right now. You don't have peace about it right now. But I'll tell you a little secret belief that I have is that for those of us who have been suppressed, not listened to, not supported emotionally as kids, sometimes when we're upset and we need to express ourselves now, it is better to express ourselves badly than not to express ourselves at all. So I'm sort of behind you on this. I think you can clean up anything that you don't like about how you handled it, but good for you for speaking up. For your spirit with your CPTSD to just go, you know what? You don't get to treat me this way. Good. Every cell of your body hears it when you do that. All right? So good, you did it. All right, but it's messy, now you're embarrassed and you're not having peace. So let's undo the part that needs to be undone. Not the part that you spoke up. You stood up for yourself. Oh, people who ostracize, that is such a cruel punishment. It's a terrible thing to do to people. And you think what is this, high school? But it is. It's yeah, it is. It is like high school. And people who are immature do it to other people. Who knows? I don't know. They get some sort of feeling of being good people out of it or something they don't want to look at. I don't know. We can only speculate, and it's a waste of time to speculate. We just got to get peace inside. All right. So I love your insight. You have very good insight where you say, it's very possible I made assumptions that exaggerated their intentions to harm you. That is what we do. So that's brilliant. Let's assume that you did, all right, as we consider a possibility. Let's just consider. So they also, it's yes, you maybe did that, they did it, they thought that you had intentions to harm them when they assumed you didn't care about this dog thing, which you did. You responded to it in the best way you could, and you did care. So they're probably just rightfully angry about the dogs being loose and endangering other pets, which makes sense. But pulling you apart on a public forum probably wasn't the best thing. That's putting it nicely. It's BS. That's terrible doing that. People should talk directly when they have a beef with somebody. Absolutely. This thing where people use the internet for it is just, it's made life terrible for everybody. All right. So that's when you blew up with them. So, of course, you say, then my neighbors wouldn't talk to me or look at me. Not that they really did before either. The dog incident was what they were complaining about. But they'd been doing this for a long time. And you don't even know why. I'm sorry. That's terrible. That is cruel human treatment. Okay. They were friendly with your ex who smeared you after you left your abusive marriage. Yeah, says a lot about the people. I don't know. So that could have had something to do with it. But I think sometimes something really bad happening, like if they're aware that you're abused, people who are not emotionally mature, they're just like, oh, I can't deal with that possibility. Maybe they have something like that in their life or they're afraid of it. Or again, I think that people carry fear and they see somebody standing up for themselves or getting free. And it's almost like they stand in front of you, they feel scared, and because they're not very grown up inside, they think you're the one making them feel afraid. They conflate you with the threat that they dread that your experience represents, because it can happen to anybody and it will happen to some of them, right? And they know it. They know it on some level. I often feel like I should just try to let go, do the daily practice, yes. Chalk it up to lessons learned. Well, I think if you could let it go, you would have by now. And that's one reason why a good apology is so powerful, because it lets you let it go. You just kind of, when you know that even though they were worse, you did something wrong, the fact that you did something wrong is what's haunting you. It's less so. The fact that they did something wrong is easy to forget. You will forget it. But this part where you feel like you didn't live up to your own standards, that's what's grinding you down. Okay. So you posted it. And you get mixed up in general when someone has wronged you and then you wrong them back, and, are you bad? Or are you just as bad as them? And it's confusing. Yes, it is. It is. And then the fear that if you apologize, that you're either condoning or you're accepting guilt that it's all your fault, or that you're condoning their treatment of you. So here's what I want to say. Apologizing does not have to be that at all. You don't have to go there. So here's how you make a clean apology to them if you decide to. You cannot, like, it's up to you, but you might as well give it a try. It's good practice. You have to detach from things turning out a certain way as a result of your apology. So first you detach from that and you go, I'm just going to own what I did. I'm going to say it directly to these people. And so I don't know how you would do that. You're talking about a group of people. You don't want to put it online. If it's a direct conversation with them, or you see them standing together, or you go talk to a couple of them and then a couple more when you see them. And so you prepare this. You do a little preparation work and you go, hey, I just wanted to apologize for how I blew up at you online. And you don't bring up anything they did, not even a little bit. That's the temptation, right? I want to apologize for how I did that. But you, da-da-da. That's how we instinctively do it. But now you're going to do it in a better way, which is don't bring up their part. That is for them to do. Just say, I'm sorry for how I blew up at you online. I realize that I may have assumed worse motives than you had, and I'm sorry. If that had happened to me, I would have been embarrassed, for people to see that online. I hope we can work it out. That's all you have to say. You may not even want to work it out, so you don't have to say that if you want. But the key thing there is to just admit really plainly and honestly, this is what I did. This is how I would feel if it were done to me. I'm sorry. I would like this to be resolved and worked out. Or just, I'm sorry. You can say, I hope you can forgive me. And you leave it at that. And I'm just going to tell you, in my experience, probably they are not going to apologize for what they did. So just be ready for that. You don't care. You don't need their apology, right? You just need to have peace inside because you know who you are. You know what you're doing. You know what they did is wrong, right? You don't know how bad it was, but your goal in life is to start getting a grip on this PTSD reaction where you flip out on people. And I don't say that as judgment at you. I say that as somebody who has done it before too. And it feels terrible. I mean, the shame is awful when you flipped out on somebody, right? I know. And so you're practicing giving that good apology, and then just stepping back and letting the chips fall where they may. I don't think it's very likely to create an opening for them to come complaining at you. But if they do, all you do is go, okay, I hear you. Yep, I'll take that into consideration if they did that. But I'll tell you what, I've had to make some pretty scary apologies to people for things worse than what you did. And the worst thing that's ever happened is people just were indifferent. They were like, oh, whatever, okay. And it didn't change our relationship, and it doesn't need to. It did feel good to just say, I'm sorry I did that. Because I was ashamed. I was ashamed about how I acted. And I needed to just take responsibility for that and clean up my mess. Just take a little broom and go there. It's no longer lying around. It doesn't change what they did. But you're learning by this to have boundaries, and you feeling more confident that you can cope with and take responsibility for your part in things is going to empower you next time somebody mistreats you to stand up to them in an elegant way, in a pointed way, in a way that does defend yourself or ask questions or has a conversation or patches things up, as the case may be, that you feel is the appropriate outcome. But you're no longer a prisoner of your own PTSD reactions. That's what you're teaching yourself to do. So I don't know what's going to happen with them. I'd like to hear. You're not foolish for trying. You're actually highly evolved. We have a saying in my house, first one to apologize wins. That's the rule. That's how it works. The person who knows how to apologize quickly has great emotional maturity and fluidity and choices in life. So I hope that helps. This was a great story. Tell us what happened. We would really appreciate it. Chelsea, I appreciate the letter. If anybody here wants to go through my tips on how exactly to do a good apology, I've detailed it in this video right here, and I will see you very soon.